It is
It
right in the middle of it.
It's in the slap bang in the middle of tax
Yeah.
season, and well, we need to know all the things that can assist people in this process. What's the latest, Paul, for if you are aware of anything as far as these wage negotiations and the slowdown at the offices? Has that subsided a bit? Are people back in action, or is it recommended that people still continue on the online platforms?
I would recommend that people continue with the online platforms. It's much more efficient.
Yeah.
However, things in the branches have subsided a bit.
Okay.
I know earlier in the month there were a lot of branches that were actually closed.
Yes.
And if you really do want to go in branch, or if you've got such a hectic issue that you need to be in branch, you can just simply go into the SARS website. They keep a daily tab of which branch is open, which branch is closed.
Okay.
On there. So go to the SARS website, www.sars.gov.za, and you can check out, there's a link there that speaks about the industrial actions that's currently taking place, and then you can check.
Okay, so they are updating.
Yeah.
They are updating on their site as well. Because I mean, it's important, but a lot of people maybe might not have that information. Others are just frustrated. Oh, I went there and it was closed, because maybe they haven't done e-filing ever before. Guys, the e-filing thing is very user-friendly.
It is user-friendly, and unfortunately also the call center has been impacted by the strike.
Yes, because obviously those are that's human resources.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So the best bet is really e-filing.
All right. The Tax Cafe, from the Tax Cafe, in fact, to Faniswa Ndungane, joining us as our resident tax specialist once a week, every week on Wednesdays between 25 to 11 and 25 to 12 and 12 o'clock. We give you your weekly dose of compliance. Do we call it that?
Yes, compliance. Listen, you must comply. There's a lot of things you need to comply with in life, and tax is just one of them.
I mean, look at Banyana. 440,000 rand, and now you gotta think, Kanene.
Yeah. The tax man is running.
Hey, he's like,
Yes.
hey.
I'm getting paid.
By the way, well played. I saw that goal. You represented us well. Anyway, have a seat. Let's talk. All right. Have a cup of coffee on me. What do you want, Jacobs? You know it's about to get hectic. You want some biscuits with that? Maybe a Chelsea bun? What? Because listen. It's not gonna get any easier. But you know what? For the benefit of everything that it is that is getting done, you pay it and you forget about it, because what's left is yours, like really yours.
Yes.
You could try to spend it all, but this is not going. It's gonna end in tears.
SARS will come for you.
It's gonna end in tears.
It will. So, and I've actually got a case study that I'm going to look at. One of my clients, who's recently become a client of mine, it's not pretty. It's not looking pretty for her, and she's in a very unfortunate situation of owing SARS. But before we get into that, I want to backtrack a bit and just sort of refresh our memory.
Right.
What is it that we're actually submitting? What are we filing? What is tax season, and what is it all about?
And what are tax returns?
Yes, and what are tax returns?
If I've just finished varsity, maybe it's my very first job.
Yeah.
It's my very first cycle. I've just received this IRP5. Nobody at work is really telling me much. Yeah. They just told us to collect them. Maybe where you collect your pay slips, like, hey, IRP5s are here. Like, oh, give me one too.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And that's actually a good place to start. Start at the very, very basics.
Yeah.
Because we tend to sort of go with the terminology, and we have a whole...
As if everybody knows.
Yes, and we're leaving people behind.
Right.
And so let's start with the basics. So when you work, every month you get a document called a pay slip.
Yes.
That will detail your monthly salary and all of the deductions that go off. And
yes.
it will tell you this is what you're getting in the bank, which is your net salary. Now, if you put all of your pay slips together for a period of a year, and this is now a tax year, which begins on the 1st of March every month and finishes at the end of February.
Right.
That's a tax year, March to February every year. and you get another document called an IRP5, which is basically all of your pay slips collated all together. The exact same information is just annualized.
Okay.
So it'll be your annual salary, your annual deductions, and your annual net pay.
Okay.
That's what's reflected.
So it's a summary basically of all your pay slips and all your deductions and anything else that might reflect against what you earn.
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct. And then you take this IRP5 and you populate it on what is called a tax return.
Yes.
Now, tax return is a form, and people like to or tend to mix up the terminology between a return, I suppose, because
and a refund.
I suppose because a return is something that comes back to you, and so they get mixed up with that terminology. But a return is the actual form which you complete.
Okay.
On the return, you would populate the details of your IRP5. And then if you've got any deductions that you want to claim against your income, say you've got a medical aid, you've got retirement funding, you've got donations that you've made, that would go under the deductions section of the tax return form. And then you fill out all of those details. And then the very most important thing is that every amount that you populate on the return needs to be accompanied by a supporting document.
Okay.
So the supporting document for your income side would be your IRP5, and the supporting documentation on the deduction side would be all of your tax certificates.
Okay.
So if you've got a retirement annuity from any of the financial institutions, they would provide you with a tax certificate which then supports the deduction that you're claiming.
And that would be the most current at the end of
Yes.
your financial year,
Yes.
so that you can collate it
So
with...
it actually has on that heading, it says tax certificate for the period or for the year ended 2020.
Got it.
So then you can match the actual supporting document to the return.
Okay.
Because the return you'd be submitting for 2022 needs to match the financial information for the current year.
Got it.
Submitting.
Got it.
And so the supporting documents for retirement annuity and medical aid would be a tax certificate. If you made any donations to a registered public benefit organization, that organization would supply you with something called a Section 18A certificate.
Okay.
And
That's recognition of your donation within that financial period.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's a Section 18A certificate because Section 18A of the Income Tax Act speaks to registered public benefit organizations that receive funding, donation funding from the general public.
Okay.
So you who would have donated would then receive the certificates.
Okay.
And if you're in a situation where you use your personal vehicle for business travel, you would receive a travel allowance from your employer, and this would be reflected on the income side of your tax return.
Okay.
So it will be reflected on your IRP5. Say you've got a travel allowance of say 100,000 rand.
For the year.
For the year.
Okay.
What that basically means is that you are not going to get taxed on 100,000 rands, but part of that you used that money to travel for business purposes. If it weren't for the purposes of your employment, if it weren't for the purposes of your business, you would not be receiving this travel allowance.
And you wouldn't need it.
And you wouldn't need it.
Right.
So under the deduction side, you can claim a travel allowance deduction. So the easiest way to do that is to keep a travel logbook.
Okay.
And the travel logbook, the numbers on your travel logbook is what you would then populate on your tax return.
So
And
like every time you fill up, you keep your slips, your mileage, all of that, so that you...
Not necessarily.
Okay.
People tend to confuse the two. So there's two ways of claiming a travel allowance. You either keep a travel logbook, which details the kilometers that you've actually
And then you
traveled.
claim against the kilometers. And
Yes.
Okay.
So how that works is you would then document your opening odometer reading on the 1st of March, which is the beginning of the financial year. You would then also document your closing odometer reading at the end of the financial year, which will then auto-calculate your total
Your mileage, right.
traveled for the year, part of which is for business and part of which is for personal. Now your travel logbook would assist in calculating the business trips.
By trip, yeah.
By
Okay,
trip. So you
notice.
keep that travel logbook. As and when you travel, you document your travel on that logbook, and then you total up business kilometers. And then there is a whole complex calculation in terms of how you calculate then the kilometers and translate that into rand value to deduct against the travel allowance that you've received.
Why is it gotta be complex? Why can't I just calculate it?
It is complex because
It's got steps.
It's got steps, and a person who studied tax at any level will be privy to the calculation. However, you don't need to be doing that calculation. You simply populate the numbers and the return itself will auto-calculate.
Okay, as long as everything is accurately captured, it's as close to the real story as possible.
You need the real story, not close to it.
Well, I mean, give or take 1 kilometer.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's one way of making the travel deduction. The other way is the way that people think, or most people think it's done, which is it's a solution as well, but it's very it's administrative to keep all of those slips, to keep all of those records when you poured petrol, when you changed your tires, when you went for maintenance and things like that. So you would then need to keep all of your slips, and then that's literally, you've got your slips which are detailing the rand value, and that's the amount you claim.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The easiest way, I find the easiest way, is to keep a travel logbook.
Right.
Yeah.
And keep it in the car, like a knee-jerk reaction before you start the car. Put the key in.
Yep.
Mileage down. It must be a habit, otherwise you can. Right.
Yes.
Right.
So that is if you are claiming any travel allowances. And then we also tend to forget our side hustles when we are populating our tax returns. We tend to always focus on the salary side, but some of us have side hustles, and some of
legal. Just saying.
Yes, legal side.
Otherwise,
hustles.
forget.
Well, actually true. You'll remember.
Oh my goodness. She's going to officiate.
You'll remember a couple of weeks ago we dealt with a situation where you are involved in illegal activities.
But the tax man is like, that's fine.
You
But
deal with that.
but I heard somebody's making money around here, and I'm gonna need my cut.
Yes. So.
Forget the fact that you're going to prison.
Yes.
I need a bit, you know.
I mean, you've got people on the outside that can,
Ah.
do an EFT on your behalf to SARS, and you can just chill, inside, and but get the EFT sorted.
Get the EFT sorted, otherwise you're never getting out of there. All right, yeah.
So when you do have a side hustle or a business of any nature, you would then also need to declare that business income. But the nice thing with that is that you can claim all your business related expenses as well.
Okay.
And depending on how you're running a business, if you're running it as a sole proprietor, then all of that income and deductions you would also populate on your personal income tax
Yes,
return.
because you're liable for all of that.
That's correct.
Okay.
And you would then claim all your business-related expenses, and that can put you in a profit or a loss, and
Depending on how the hammer falls with the calculation.
Yes.
That formula, guys.
Yes. But the important thing to remember is, especially when it comes to your deductions, every amount you populate on your tax return must be accompanied by supporting documents.
Got it.
SARS will literally write back all of your expenses if you don't have supporting documents, and then you would be taxed on just the income without the benefit of the deductions.
Compliance.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we preach anyway. We might joke about a certain few things, fine, but really, this is about getting you in the right,
Yeah.
Mm.
And then a couple of changes that we've seen with this tax filing season this year is, the first thing is they've shortened this season. So it's usually the 1st of July till around the 3rd week of November. Now it's the 1st of July until the 24th of October.
Is this even considering the mass action that was taken by the employees?
It is not, because obviously they could not have predicted that.
Right.
But
Or the timing of when it would have started, right?
Yes. So it was announced prior to the mass action, prior to the strike, but I haven't heard that they are considering extending that deadline in light of the strike action now. So the deadline to submit your tax return is still then the 24th of October.
And you've got enough time. I mean, don't look at the mass action as a reason why there should be an extension. You've got plenty of time between now and that time. If you have never e-filed, you can even learn how to.
That's a good time
You can even learn how to. Mistakes are forgivable,
Yes.
and they are recoupable
Yeah.
in the sense that all your actions are captured digitally, and
Yes.
should there be any thing that needs amendment, or there's always explanation for such things. So
Yeah.
don't be afraid to take it on, because if you get it right once, it becomes a habit.
It becomes a habit.
Mm.
And the other thing that has changed this year is with regards to non-compliance penalties.
Yes.
So if you do happen to miss the compliance deadline, in the past you would be penalized only if you miss 2 or more returns.
Mm.
But now you will be penalized even if you miss 1 return. So if you miss that deadline, you could be facing admin penalties for non-compliance, which could range up to 16,000 rand.
Those are not child's play.
Yes,
Mm.
they are not.
And you don't want to be the one selected for a penalty.
No.
That's not that you definitely don't want to go there. Imagine you had a tax refund of about 16.5K coming your way, and then because you were late, you get like 422 rand.
Yeah.
And you're like, but they're like, well, we told you, fam.
Yes.
2 days makes all the difference.
It literally makes all the difference. And I think a part of the reason why they have initiated these changes this year
Yeah.
is because they've streamlined the auto assessment process.
Okay.
So when it comes to auto assessment, what SARS does is they're actually privy to a lot of our financial information. You'd be surprised. So they
Well, I mean, it's so everything is so digitized, and
Yes.
and also, if you are somebody, whether you've been working at the same place or not, your filing and your updating and your visits to the offices of the receiver
yeah.
form some kind of what do you call it, algorithm,
Yeah.
personal algorithm
Yeah.
into your standings, you know.
And not only that, true, but because your employer deducts pay as you earn every month, they don't deduct that money and keep it in their bank. They literally have every month to submit that amount to SARS.
Yes.
So every month SARS is actually collecting data about you that you've prepaid essentially tax to this amount. And then what your employer needs to do is they need to do recons
Yes.
twice a year. So by the time you get your IRP5, your employer has already reconciled all of your income.
And SARS already
SARS.
has the bag.
So that's why when you open up your tax return, you'll find a lot of the information already pre-populated.
So whatever you see in your bank account on your payday that you know is your payday, just know that that's changed, that SARS decided to leave for you.
Yes.
SARS opened your envelope and was like, let me see what's... I'll
Take this.
take that. Minions. Now go back to work.
So SARS has used the information that they have at their disposals to sort of streamline the auto assessment
Yeah.
process. And a lot of people have been getting auto assessed.
Okay.
And this started initially in 2020 with the start of the COVID pandemic.
Yeah.
They wanted to reduce the number of people that go in branch because of how hectic the COVID
And the
season
numbers. And also maybe saw an opportunity to change the way
Indeed.
things... Yes.
Exactly.
Right.
And they've just streamlined and made it a lot easier now. To a point you don't even, if you do get auto assessed, you don't even need to accept, because up until last year, if you did get auto assessed, you needed to still go in, have a look, and click accept if you agree with the auto assessment.
Ah.
But now, if you don't click accept, or well, there is no accept button, it auto finalizes by itself.
Okay.
So you'll get a message pop up that you've been auto assessed, and it'll encourage you to go onto your return to see that you're happy with all of the information.
Okay, so it prompts you to go to log on, and then you get there and you
Yes.
see what the outcome is. It takes you to the section where it is, all of
Yeah.
that. Okay, great.
And if you're happy with all all of that, you just leave it as is. It will auto-finalize.
So it's only if you have an objection where,
Yes.
okay.
If you need to add anything onto the return, then you would then open that up and you make all of the necessary amendments that you need to make. And you've got a period of 40 business days in order to do
Okay.
that. So
From the time you receive communication.
That's correct.
Noted. Noted.
And then, they're also honing in on penalties as well, as I mentioned.
As far as collections.
As far as collections, yes. So the interest will run every month. If ever you owing SARS and you don't make payment, they will
SARS is collecting compound interest.
yes. So the interest.
I've heard this. I've heard this story before. I used to see it. Used to be a guy who used to visit Stumo's door with Mpini. What ulaqasha?
Yes.
Yes.
That wow. That is intense. Wow.
Well, who else collects compound interest? Wow, guys. And it's not even a loan. It's like on a penalty. You know, it's like,
Yes.
Still.
And some of the penalties that they're really putting a spotlight on is understatement penalties. So
Yeah.
when you understate your income, say you received 100,000 for the year and you only declare 80,
That's going to catch up
that
with
is
you.
an understatement penalty. Or if you overstate your expenses. So if your donation, you made a 2,000 rands donation and you claim that you made 20,000,
Oh, okay.
that is also called an understatement penalty.
Okay.
And then you would be penalized for, fattening your deductions.
Now, if I still don't fully understand all of this and I need to consult a tax consultant,
Yeah.
somebody who is trusted to take me through professionally, take me through what I need to know and what I need to do. How do I know that this person is who they say they are, and how do I know that they are worth what they're doing, and how do I know that they are recognized by the people that they are helping me claim and process my stuff with?
This is something that I have had the very unfortunate event of seeing so many times. Clients will come up to me, they're owing SARS, they don't understand. And a particular client of mine came up to me, they're owing SARS and they don't understand. And when I look back at her previous submissions, she last submitted her return in 2015. So what had happened was she overstated her expenses in the prior years. Her 2015 return was selected for audit verification. She ignored that. And then she actually just ignored everything to do with SARS. She did not submit any of her returns. And so what SARS did is they wrote back all of her expenses.
Okay.
So she was owing all of the monies that she
Ouch.
had claimed. And she comes to me now in 2022, and I need to file all of her returns from 2016 to date. And unfortunately, I can't reopen all of her old returns because they've prescribed. There's a prescription period of 3 years.
Okay.
So anything beyond 3 years, I can't reopen. And when I ask her who was assisting you to submit your returns, she doesn't know. And a lot of people, they don't know who they are working with. And you need to be working with a reputable tax practitioner. A reputable tax practitioner will be registered with a controlling body, either the South African Institute of Tax Practitioners, SAIT, SAICA, if they're a registered chartered accountant, and there's many, many others. But in addition to that, they'll also be registered with SARS as a tax practitioner, and
They've got a practitioner number. Yes.
And I've asked you to share with the listeners the link where you can check.
Check out the comment section right here on this broadcast, even if you're watching it later on. I have put the link both on our YouTube and on our Facebook.
Yeah.
So you click there, put in the tax practitioner number that you have of the person who's assisting you, and this will allow you to know if SARS recognizes this person as somebody that that can deal with you on their behalf, or deal with them on your behalf. Either way, that puts your middle person and yourself in a better light.
Yeah, and all of these bodies, and SARS as well, holds the practitioners to high regard. So it is very unlikely that you'll have a registered tax practitioner submitting falsified information on your behalf.
Because
And
that
if
on its own is
if
a
they
mess.
do, yeah, if they do, then at least you've got some kind of accountability.
Time is not on our side. It's 12 o'clock already. Piro is going to kill me. Faniswa Ndungane from the Tax Cafe. If you need anything and if you need to know anything, how do we get in touch?
Telephonically 061-874-2546. Via email, it is info@thetaxcafe.co.za. Across all social media, I am the Tax Cafe.
And on that note, we are out of time. And you realize that you could have been anywhere between 9 and 12, but this is where you chose to be. For that, we're eternally grateful. Thank you for making Moment of Truth your 9 to 12 destination. Faniswa, until next week, Wednesday.
Yes.
And with you, Mpulapuli, until tomorrow,